Set.
All set.
Council meeting of April 18th, 2023 will now please come to order at 8:13 p.m. The audience is invited to join council in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Broussard.
Present.
Ms. Gilchrist.
Here.
Mr. Glasper.
Here.
Ms. Heeman.
Here.
Mr. Limpert.
Present.
Mr. Madden.
Here.
Mr. Scarl.
Present.
Ms. Williamson.
Here.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes and public hearing minutes of April 4th, 2023 are approved as written. The following legislation is being considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On second reading, ordinance 2023-43, resolution 2023-44, and ordinance 2023-45, and also on first reading, resolution 2023-47. Moving into reports, Mayor Daley Jones, do you have a report this evening?
I do, Mr. President. Thank you. Good evening. The city has been notified that U.S. Representative Max Miller has submitted the City of North Olmsted's request for funding for the Clegg Road Sanitary Force Main Replacement Project in the amount of $2 million to be included in the federal fiscal appropriations. While there is more work to be done to ensure that this funding is secured, the city has jumped the largest hurdle in this process. The city welcomed 2 new businesses with ribbon-cutting ceremonies last week at Great Northern Mall, Daily Thread and Rainbow Apparel Company, both specialty clothing retailers. The 100th anniversary of Springvale Ballroom will be marked with a special centennial dance from 6 to 9 p.m. on May 18th. Tickets are $10 each and are being sold at the door the evening of the event. Guests are encouraged to dress in garb from their favorite decade, beginning with the 1920s through today. There will be appetizers, music from DJ Carl Sant, dance lessons, a cash bar, raffle baskets, and more fun. And speaking of a theme, the Skating Through the Decades is the theme of this year's Ice Show 2023 at the North Olmsted Recreation Center. Performances will take place on Friday, May 19th, and Saturday, May 20th, and Sunday, May 21st. Tickets are $12 at the door. And 2 events through our North Olmsted City Schools to be made aware of. The North Olmsted High School will present a STEAM showcase from 5:30 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, May 9th. STEAM, in case you aren't aware, stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Students will present, demonstrate, and showcase their interactive STEAM projects that they have completed in class. And students at the North Olmsted High School will present the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, The Sound of Music, in performances on April 28th and 29th at 7 p.m. in the evening, and on April 30th, 2 p.m. matinee. All performances will be taking place at the North Olmsted Performing Arts Center. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased online. On Wednesday, April 26th, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., seniors from the North Olmsted High School will take on senior citizens from the North Olmsted Senior Center in the 2nd annual chair volleyball tournament. If you are free on this day, this event is not to be missed, as I can attest to from last year. Participants will enjoy pizza and dessert following the games. And just a reminder that weather permitting, the city's Springvale Golf Course is now open for the season for those who would enjoy hitting the links, but not when we're actually experiencing snow flurries, as we have in the past 2 days. I will be planting a tree at North Olmsted Community Park with our city arborist, Mike Bosa, in commemoration of Arbor Day on Friday, April 28th. We will be joined by third graders from the North Olmsted City Schools who will take part by planting flowers around the War Memorial at the North Olmsted Community Park. And finally, I had the opportunity to travel with 18 of our scouts from Troop 664 here in North Olmsted from Thursday through Sunday this past week to Gettysburg. And it was an amazing experience to be with those scouts from North Olmsted. And of particular significance, on Saturday, it was the 158th anniversary of President Lincoln's death. And on that day, we were able to visit the location of where he gave the Gettysburg Address. So it was particularly poignant for myself and the other scout leaders, but especially for the kids who ranged in age from 5th grade all the way through 11th grade who were with us. And I just wanted to report back to council that being able to be there and watch those children soak in the history, I feel very confident in our future leaders here in North Olmsted. And that, Mr. President, concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Law, Garreau, do you have a report this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of quick notes. One, we have, if some of you were aware, some of you may not be aware, but we do have in receipt an appeal from the building commissioner's requirement that applicant obtain a new certificate of zoning approval and the April 6, 2023 rejection of applicant's application for a new business or change. This is for Kobach Group LLC. This is the Kava Bar. That will be set for a hearing before the BZBA. The date is not yet determined whether we'll be doing it at a special hearing or whether we'll do it on the regular agenda during the May agenda. That's still to be determined. We will, as was the case the last time, obtain additional counsel, given the nature of one law department providing advice to the neutral quasi-judicial body and also the City of North Olmsted officials who will be testifying to obtain independent counsel just to handle that particular part, the board part of the meeting. So we'd like to proceed with that. But we'll have a date set here in the next few days, and you can keep an eye out for that. We have there's a total of 9, based upon information was forwarded to us from the police department, a total of 9 present cases that have been commenced and are filed against those who we believe to be in violation of our registered sex offender code. So again, when we find them, we find out about them, they're turned into us, we will take action to ensure that they comply with the code. And they, in this case, they'll have to leave where they're located for being too close to schools, is generally what the violation is. Some of them actually are in violation of the state code. Ours is a larger area, but I'm not sure how the county runs that, or if the county is concerned about that, but some of them, it seems that they're even closer than what the state code would allow. Our code has a wider range that you're prohibited to live within. Lastly, we have, this one doesn't come up often, we have a notice of appeal to the Ohio Board of Building Appeals in Ashland. This is a decision concerning plan review and approval by the city's building department for the building, I guess we call it the Horizon Building, next to John Knox Church, basically at the intersection of Great Northern Boulevard and Lorraine. There's an issue about installing and utilizing a rooftop patio that has been denied by the City of North Olmsted for what we believe to be violation of the building code. And they wish to have that matter heard on appeal before the appropriate body, which is the Ohio Board of Building Appeals down in Ashland. So they don't come up very often, but I'll be making a trip down to Ashland in May 22nd, to defend the city's position. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director of Finance, Copper, do you have a report this evening?
7 years ago today. No, Mr. President, I do not.
Thank goodness.
Thank you. Moving into council committee reports, Councilwoman Williamson, Chairwoman of the Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee, do you have a report?
I do, Mr. President, thank you. The Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee met this evening at 7:02 p.m. Present were all members of council. our mayor, directors of law, finance, human resources, safety service, recreation, our special assistant to the mayor, and guests. The first item on the agenda was ordinance 2023-45, which reads, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into the maintenance support and lifecycle management addendum to the Motorola Solutions Incorporated Communication System and Services Agreement authorized by ordinance 2023-27 and declaring an emergency. Safety Director Schofield explained this ordinance is a supplemental ordinance for ordinance 2023-27, which authorized the lease of the Motorola consoles for the dispatchers. This ordinance is a service and maintenance agreement for the years 2 through 5 for the contract. This agreement does not need to be budgeted for this year. Suspension was requested as the equipment order is being held up until passage of this agreement. A motion was made to recommend approval to all of council of ordinance 2023-45 with suspension, and the motion passed with a vote of 3-0. The next item on the agenda was liquor permit number 811-2886 for Shriji Grocer LLC, doing business as Olmsted Beverage and Lottery, located at 23555 Lorraine Road. After review by the police department and seeing no issues, a motion was made to not object to liquor permit number 811-2886 for Shriji Grocer LLC, doing business as Olmsted Beverage and Lottery, and that motion passed with a vote of 3-0. The final item on the agenda was liquor permit number 6779397 for PCK III LLC located at 4967 Dover Center Road. After review by the police department and seeing no issues, a motion was made to not object to liquor permit number 6779397 for PCK LLC, and that motion passed with a vote of 3-0. The meeting concluded at 7:06 p.m. Mr. President, at this time, I would like to make a motion to not object to liquor permit number 811-2886 for Shriji Grocer LLC, doing business as Olmsted Beverage and Lottery, located at 23555 Lorraine Road, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to not object to liquor license permit number 811-2886, Shriji Grocer LLC, DBA Olmsted Beverage and Lottery, located at 23555 Lorraine Road, made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Mr. Madden.
Yes.
Mr. Scarl.
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist.
Yes.
Mr. Limpert.
Yes.
Ms. Heeman.
Yes.
Mr. Glassboro.
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to not object to liquor permit number 6779397 for PCK III LLC, located at 4967 Dover Center Road, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to not object to liquor license permit number 6779397, PCK III LLC at 4967 Dover Center Road, made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Mr. Madden.
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist.
Yes.
Mr. Limpert.
Yes.
Ms. Heeman.
Yes.
Mr. Glassboro.
Yes.
Mr. Scarl.
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report?
No report this evening, Mr. President, but I would like to make a motion to refer ordinance 2023-18 back to the Building, Zoning, Development Committee meeting and remove it from the agenda, as there were Planning and Design Commission recommendations that occurred. From a procedural standpoint, we had our meeting before those were recommended, and I believe that those should be heard in committee. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to remove ordinance 2023-18 from the agenda, and then the corresponding motion to refer it back to committee made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert.
Yes.
Ms. Williamson.
Yes.
Mr. Madden.
Yes.
Ms. Heeman.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President. Is there discussion on this or no discussion? I think that I'd like to find out from the law director what that was, what his decision was.
Law Director, can you clarify Ms. Heeman's question?
It's up to the council if you wish for me to be heard at this point during a roll call vote. That's, if there's no objection, I guess, Mr. Chairman, then hearing no objection, then what was the question, please?
The question is there a procedural issue? And does this need to go back to committee, or may it remain on the agenda?
It's the issue, the only issue that deals specifically in the charter with respect to zoning ordinances is under mandatory referral under Article 7, Section D, which speaks to the referral of all legislation concerning, among other things, zoning, use of land, to the Planning and Design Commission, where they have then 30 days to take action on it and make a recommendation. It provides that if any provision of any ordinance, resolution, or order is disapproved by formal action of the Planning or Design Commission, it shall require 2/3 votes of all the members of council eligible to vote for adoption or authorization. I think what had happened here is we had this legislation doesn't often come back from the Planning Design Commission with recommended changes and disapprovals. So it kind of creates a little bit of a different scenario. Normally it kind of goes along, council introduces it, it stops right there, goes up to Planning Design, then you have your public hearing, comes back from Planning Design, committee meeting or what have you, and then it goes off to the council. So in this situation, they did make recommendations. I don't know that those recommendations have ever been discussed in committee or have been brought forward for consideration. So in terms of, and it doesn't happen often, okay? They don't normally make suggested changes to zoning codes. But I think from a procedural standpoint, is it a mandatory requirement that it would be referred back to the committee? No, but there hasn't been a process by which those recommendations have been given consideration. So as a procedural matter, I think it's probably a better way to legislate that if they came back with recommended changes to at least have a place to hear them. But I think that's the appropriate way to do it, would be back in committee.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Glassbern.
Yes, with comment due to the law director's advice.
Ms. Gilchrist.
Yes, with comment. Thank you, Law Director, for helping us understand that a little better.
Mr. Scarl.
Yes, with comment. Thank you, Law Director, for clarifying that.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee, do you have a report?
I do, thank you, Mr. President. The Public Parks, the Recreation, Public Parks, and Buildings Committee met this evening at 7:06 p.m. On the agenda was 2023-44, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with CDW Corporation, also known as CDW-G, to purchase data equipment for installation at the North Olmsted Recreation Center to improve Wi-Fi capacity at a cost of $137,901.49 through the state purchase program and declaring an emergency. The present were all members of the committee, all members of council, and all of the city directors. The Director Pinchuk presented the project and outlined the need for upgraded Wi-Fi service capability at our recreation center because we are going to be installing security cameras in and around the facility and to ensure that they will be fully operational without disruption or disrupted Wi-Fi service. Additionally, upgraded service capability will improve the flow of work for our employees who at times have experienced disruptions to their work because of the disruption in the Wi-Fi caused by internet failures. The funds are primarily ARPA funds, and some city funds will be used in that project as well. Ms. Heeman made a motion to recommend to all of council with suspension, seconded by Mr. Scarl. The motion passed 3-0, and the meeting concluded at 7:11 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Glassbern, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Mr. President, due to my recusal, I will yield to Councilman Limpert, who chaired the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. President. The Finance Committee met this evening, 18 April 2023 at 7:15 PM. Present were committee members Limpert and Williamson, with Mr. Glassburn opening the meeting and recusing himself. Also present were the rest of council and the full slate of directors. On the agenda was ordinance 2023-43, which was a ordinance authorizing income tax revenue sharing agreement among the city of North Olmsted and North Olmsted City School District and declaring an emergency. This is a follow-up to previous legislation where we approved a property tax exemption for 100% for years 1 through 10, and exemption period 75% for years 11 through 15 as a CRA exemption for property located at 31330 Industrial Parkway within the city. Director Upton explained that the North Olmsted City School District, from the original review of this, had changed their position in regards to their desire to recoup their portion of the property tax revenue from the exemption, and through some negotiation, they are accepting a smaller portion than the full authorized that came from that, and it's going to result in a 50-50 income tax sharing to compensate for that property tax. That will not exceed the amount they would be provided as part of this agreement that would come from the value of the property. That revenue will occur from the start of construction of the project and the project site for those working taxable income there, as well as through the full term of the CRA time period. After some discussion, the committee recommended by a vote of 2-0 with suspension, and the suspension being needed due to the North Olmsted City School District Board of Education needing to approve it on their end, and that was slated for a meeting next week. And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, the meeting ended at 7:24 PM, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Councilman Scarl, Chairman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report?
No report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gilchrist, Chairwoman of the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do, thank you, Mr. President. The Intergovernmental Relations Committee met on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 at 7:25 PM to interview the Mayor's Commission's appointments and the Board of Elections precinct map. Present were committee members Gilchrist, Heeman, and Scarl, Council President Broussard, Council members Glassburn, Madden, Limpert, and Williamson, as well as the Mayor, Economic Director, Safety Director, Service Director, Recreation Director, the Mayor's Special Assistant, Law Director, HR Director, Finance Director, and guests. First on the agenda was the Mayor's first appointment to the Arts Commission, Lori Kishner, for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2025. Ms. Kishner was introduced and thanked for offering her time and talent to the Arts Commission. The committee voted 3-0 to favorably recommend Ms. Lori Kishner to the Arts Commission. Next on the agenda was the mayor's second appointment to the Arts Commission, Nahid Pasipur, for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2025. Ms. Pasipur was introduced and thanked for offering her time and talent to the Arts Commission as well. And the committee voted 3-0 to favorably recommend Ms. Nahid Pasipur to the Arts Commission. And at this time, Mr. President, I move to approve the appointments of both Ms. Lori Kishner and Ms. Nahid Pasipur to the Arts Commission for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2025, and ask for a second.
Second.
A motion to approve the appointments of Ms. Lori Kirschner and Ms. Nahid Pasipur to the Arts Commission for the term of January 1, 2022 2022 through December 31st, 2025, made by Councilwoman Gilchrist and seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Next on the agenda, the mayor's appointment to the Planning and Design Commission, Jose Leon, for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2026. Mr. Leon was welcomed and thanked for offering his time and talent to the North Olmsted Planning and Design Commission. The committee voted 3-0 to favorably recommend Mr. Jose Leon to the Planning and Design Commission. At this time, Mr. President, I move to approve the appointment of Mr. Jose Leon to the Planning and Design Commission for the term of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2026, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Jose Leon to the Planning and Design Commission for the term of January 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2026, made by Councilwoman Gilchrist and seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Lastly, the Intergovernmental Committee discussed the Board of Election precinct map. Mr. Glassbern summarized what transpired with the precinct map and how the new map is more aligned to the wards. The new map should cause less confusion to the residents. The committee voted to not object to the precinct map by a vote of 3-0. At this time, Mr. President, I move to not object to the Board of Elections precinct map as discussed in the committee this evening and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to not object to the Board of Elections precinct map made by Councilwoman Gilchrist, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. The intergovernmental meeting concluded at 7:37 PM, and that, Mr. President, concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilman Madden, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will now move into audience participation. Thank you for attending tonight's council meeting. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address council, please come to the podium, state and spell your name and address for the clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state the name of that city and proceed with your comments. You will have up to 5 minutes.
Evening, everyone, Mayor, City Council members. I did get a chance to talk to Max prior to
Sir,
the meeting.
could you state your name and address? Yes.
Sorry, Kerry
That's-
Peoples, 4673 Lansing Drive.
Thank you.
I did get a chance to talk to Max before the meeting about the water lines being replaced or getting them replaced. So he did follow up a little bit with that. My neighbor is also here to discuss that. One of the things now that we've had a few months, that the road is starting to deteriorate rapidly around these repair areas, and they don't seem to be, nobody seems to be addressing it. So since the road was replaced 7 years ago, now we're into the street starting to decay. So if we can get some assistance to have those patched, so we don't lose big chunks of the road on Lansing, that would be great. That's all I have.
My name is Marge Bardick. My address is 31063 Lily Lane in North Olmsted. would it be possible for North Olmsted to get tornado alarms? And that's all I have to ask.
Marge, we'll make sure somebody from the administration gets back with you on that.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Didn't, should have looked to my left.
Good evening, members of council. I did want to just provide a little additional information on the question that was presented. This came to me, I guess, last week. I did some additional research on the use of tornado sirens in suburban communities. And what I have found and what I conferred with both the police and fire chiefs about is, one, it's been about 25 years at least since we've had one here in the city of North Olmsted. They tend to be outdated mechanisms for giving forewarning of major storms coming. Sound does not travel very far, and they're only designed if you're actually outside. If you're inside a building, it's very difficult to hear any siren. And technology these days really allows for multiple ways to get advance notice of storms coming. So whether TV, radio, you can sign up for weather alert systems. We have one here in Cuyahoga County called Ready Notify, where you can get phone calls on your cell phone, your landline, you can get text messages, you can get emails. So there are a number of ways where communities can get advance notice of storms, potentially dangerous storms coming. So it's our recommendation from safety that we continue to use and promote those forms rather than installing them and maintaining any tornado sirens.
Mr. President, if I could just put.
Councilman.
Director, just to clarify, when you were talking about cell phone pushes, obviously you can opt in, but does like the National Weather Service or, is there an automatic push of that notification through, a governmental push, or do you have to opt in?
It's an opt-in. You would sign up for notifications, and you can pick which ones you'd like. I pick all of them, but it's an opt-in. And again, we do have a local notification service here in Cuyahoga County that's run through the Office of Emergency Management.
Okay.
That's readily available.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I have a question about the notification. If someone doesn't have a cell phone, is there something that would notify their landline?
Yes, you can pick either one.
Okay.
You can sign up for a telephone call.
Okay.
And that is just the auto-generated message that would come through.
What if the electricity goes out, you don't know? Use of your phone.
Mr. President?
Law Director.
They also do make a NOAA weather radio, which is a
Yes.
very small, simple radio. I know I had one for a while. It is extremely loud. It has battery backup to it. It will notify you of a whole array of warnings you didn't even know you could possibly get. That's why I had to turn it off and put it away, because my wife and I are in the same bedroom, and more than once at 3 a.m, the thing would start blaring because there was some warning on the other side of Cuyahoga County. It's a very effective tool if you want to keep apprised of things that might be happening. And there is a battery backup. They're not terribly expensive, but for people who don't have the latest, the latest cell phone technology, or don't even use that cell phone technology, at night, that's another option. Your TV's not on, you're sleeping. Those devices do exist. They're not terribly expensive, probably under $25, and they're very effective. Too effective for my liking, but they're very, very effective.
You beat me to the punch on that. There are a number of weather radios that you can buy and have at home, but they'd have to be on. And I think what we want to focus on is the advanced warning versus a warning coming in the midst of a storm. So I would suggest to any resident to sign up at Ready Notify to be able to get those messages to your phone ahead of time as an advance warning system.
Like I say, what if the electricity goes out if you have no use of the phone?
Well, it's an advance warning system, so it would give you a heads up that a storm is coming. So it would allow you time to prepare for that storm. So it's an advance warning system.
Where do we sign up for it?
I can speak with you after the meeting and give you the website. I'd be happy to do that. I have it right here.
Thank you, Director.
Yep.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments from the audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on third reading, Resolution 2023-35, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids for leaf collection services as per the specifications on file and after approval by the Board of Control, further authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of Resolution 2023-35 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-35 made by Councilman Scarl, seconded by Councilwoman Gilchrist. Roll call, please.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-35 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2023-36, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids for rock salt for roadway ice and snow removal for use by the City of North Olmsted as detailed in specifications on file, and further authorizing the Director of Public Service, after approval by the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder.
Mr. President,
Councilman.
I request a motion to approve Resolution 2023-36 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-36 made by Councilman Madden, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-36 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Resolution 2023-37, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Mad Bomber Fireworks Productions to provide a fireworks display for 2023 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I move to adopt 2023-37 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-37 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Lippert. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-37 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance 2023-42, introduced by Mayor Jones, an ordinance amending Section 139.99A of Chapter 139 of the Administrative Code entitled Department of Public Safety for the purpose of adding a part-time seasonal position within the Department of Public Safety for the purpose of providing services for the annual deer population management program.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-42 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2023-42 made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-42 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on second reading, ordinance 2023-43, introduced by Mayor Jones, an ordinance authorizing an income tax revenue sharing agreement among the City of North Olmsted and the North Olmsted City School District and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lippert.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings, formal committee review, as this is a timing issue related to the North Olmsted City Schools hearing this legislation and approving their part of the revenue sharing agreement in collaboration with our portion. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings for ordinance 2023-43 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Glassberg?
Abstain.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Sorry.
That motion passes by a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding ordinance 2023-43, please approach the podium now.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Councilman.
Seeing none, I move to adopt ordinance 2023-43 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2023-43 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilwoman Williamson. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassberg?
Abstain.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-43 is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2023-44, introduced by Mayor Jones, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with CDW Corporation, also known as CDW-G, to purchase data equipment for installation at the North Olmsted Recreation Center to improve Wi-Fi capacity at a cost of $137,901.49 through the state purchase program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings. This was heard this evening in committee and reported on at this meeting. It is in the best interest of the safety of our residents and the ability of our employees to perform their work to be able to upgrade our Wi-Fi, and I'd like to ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings for Resolution 2023-44 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Glassberg?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding Resolution 2023-44, please approach the podium now.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
thank you. Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 2023-44 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-44 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Scarl. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Glassberg?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-44 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance 2023-45, introduced by Mayor Jones, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a maintenance, support, and life cycle management addendum to the Motorola Solutions, Inc. communication system and services agreement authorized by ordinance 2023-27 and declaring an emergency.
Before, I just have to ask, did you practice that all week?
I got phonetic spelling from Director.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings as this matter was discussed in committee and is necessary as the contract for the council upgrades cannot be executed until the service agreement has been executed. And ask for a second.
Second.
Before I recite that motion, I just want to congratulate our clerk of council on getting through that piece of legislation. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I second that.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings for ordinance 2023-45 made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding ordinance 2023-45, please approach the podium now.
Seeing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-45 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2023-45 made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-45 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Legislation on first reading, Resolution 2023-46, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with iVideo Technologies in an amount not to exceed $34,000 for the purposes of upgrading the audiovisual capabilities of the North Olmsted City Council Caucus Room and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-47, a resolution extending the moratorium enacted by Resolution 2022-100 for an additional 90 days, which resolution had declared a 6-month moratorium on the issuance of building zoning or occupancy permits for the premises to be occupied by and used in total or in part for the sale and consumption on-site of kava kratom, Delta 8 THC and/or Delta 9 THC, and further temporarily prohibiting any such similar use permit, license, variance, or development plan for approval for said facilities and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, on behalf of Councilwoman Williamson and myself, I introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review as this matter was heard in caucus. This resolution is necessary to extend the moratorium for an additional 90 days to provide for the planning and zoning process to adopt recommendations through ordinance numbers 2023, 52, 53, and 54, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review for Resolution 2023-47 is made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes, with comment, I appreciate the administration and Councilwoman Williamson to make sure that we're thinking about this thoughtfully and incorporating that needed zoning conversation as part of this. So, yes, thank you.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there is anyone in the audience who wishes to address council regarding Resolution 2023-47, please approach the podium now.
Seeing no objections, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-47 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2023-47 made by Councilwoman Williamson, seconded by Councilman Madden. Roll call, please.
Ms. Williamson?
Yes.
Mr. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Scarl?
Yes.
Ms. Gilchrist?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Glassbern?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Resolution 2023-47 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance 2023-48, an ordinance amending Section 139.99B of Chapter 139 of the Administrative Code entitled Department of Public Safety for the purpose of creating a new full-time position of Information Systems Specialist in the Division of Police and declaring an emergency.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-49, a resolution authorizing the Director of Economic and Community Development to solicit statements of qualification for architectural services and various city projects through calendar year 2024 and declaring an emergency.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2023-50, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a guaranteed energy savings contract with Leopardo Energy LLC based on an energy audit authorized by Ordinance 2022-38 as amended by Ordinance 2022-114 in the amount of $3,962,095.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-51, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not to exceed 4 million of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to provide funds to pay for costs of acquiring and installing energy conservation measures in city buildings and facilities, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Mr. Vesper.
I thought it was for 52, but okay. I'm sorry, that's correct. Mr. President, on behalf of council, I am in possession of the fiscal officer's certificate, fiscal officer in this case being Director Kopfer. I'm sorry?
Is that
Oh,
sorry?
I need to physically demonstrate? It is here for all who wish to inspect it.
It's the only time we get-
Ordinance 2023-52.
Post-it note removed.
Ordinance 2023-52, an ordinance amending section 1118.13 of the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted entitled Offices and Services in order to establish subsection F to limit the location of specified uses.
I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-53, an ordinance establishing the definition of unregulated psychoactive substances in section 1115.12 of the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of North Olmsted entitled Definitions U through V for the purpose of adding definitions for uses associated with the sale and consumption of same on business premises.
On behalf of Councilwoman Williamson and myself, I introduce and place on first reading.
Ordinance 2023-54, an ordinance amending section 1139.03 of the North Olmsted zoning code entitled Schedule of Uses to conditional permit sale and consumption of unregulated psychoactive substances on premises in B1 and B2 zoning districts.
On behalf of Councilwoman Williamson and myself, I introduce and place on first reading.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Moving into scheduling, we're going to be scheduling a special council meeting for Tuesday, April 25th at 8 o'clock p.m. to allow Resolution 2023-50 and Ordinance 2023-51 to have a second reading in order to meet time-sensitive deadlines and to introduce the alternative tax budget. Additionally, there will be a public hearing on Tuesday, May 23rd at 6:45 p.m. In council chambers for the purpose of considering ordinances 2023-52, 53, and 54. And then, just as a public service, the next council meeting will be on Wednesday, May 3rd, due to the elections taking place on May 2nd. And then finally, moving into scheduling committee meetings for Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. Councilwoman Williamson, would you like to schedule Public Safety, Health, and Welfare?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to schedule that meeting at 6:45 PM on April 25th to address ordinance 2023-48, and I would ask for the mayor or her designee be present. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lippert for Building, Zoning, and Development.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I will schedule that at 6:50, or excuse me, 6:50 to discuss 2023. I'm adding -18 to the agenda and 2023-47.
9.
And what else?
9.
49 also?
No, just 49 at 47.
Oh, okay, excuse me, 49. And would ask that the Economic Development Director be present for that meeting.
Thank you. And then Councilman Glassburn for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee will meet on the 25th at 7 p.m. to consider -46, -50, and -51, and request the Directors of Finance, Economic Development, and any other designees the mayor wishes to send.
Thank you. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of April 18th, 2023 is adjourned at 9:07 PM.